A pungent, prickly fruit from Southeast Asia is making waves abroad. China buys virtually all of the world's exported supply, but as profits grow, tensions have ignited, leading to land disputes and environmental concerns. 101 East investigates China's durian craze on Al Jazeera.
It's been 10 years since global leaders set a limit on global warming. Yet the Paris Climate Agreement is failing. We'll report from some of the worst affected areas and from the 30th UN Climate Conference here in Brazil, where we'll ask if world leaders are doing enough to combat climate change. Follow COP30 on Al Jazeera.
Myanmar's resistance forces are fighting back against the ruling junta.
The Myanmar military is crumbling from the inside.
Al Jazeera Investigations examines unearthed documents and unseen footage as rare defector testimonies reveal the extent of the military's brutality.
They don't see their own citizens as a human being. They are like kind of the human shield.
Myanmar, war with the junta. On Al Jazeera.
My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
Mamdani's victory in the New York mayoral elections has shaken the establishment.
The billionaire class understands that what happened is a revolt against them.
We want to live in a society that prioritizes capital, or in a society that prioritizes society.
Fault lines on the battle for New York and the future of the Democratic Party.
This story's not over. These people play for keeps.
Bigger than Zohran on Al Jazeera.
Pakistan blames India and Afghanistan after a suicide bombing kills 12 people in Islamabad. Hello, I'm Sarah Khairat, and this is Al Jazeera live from Doha. Coming up, Israel's parliament advances a controversial bill which would allow a compulsory death penalty for Palestinians convicted of killing Israelis. Final campaign rallies are held in Chile ahead of one of its most polarized presidential elections. Plus,
I'm Tanvir Chaudhry. I'll bring you stories on how flood-prone communities in Pabna, West Central Bangladesh, are adapting to climate change through innovations.
Pakistan's defense minister says a suicide bombing in Islamabad has pushed the country into a state of war. At least 12 people have died in the attack, which was claimed by a breakaway faction of the Pakistani Taliban. It's made tensions in the region even worse. Pakistan's government is blaming both Afghanistan and India for backing armed groups. Kamal Haider has this report from Islamabad.
An attack at the entrance of the district court. Pakistan's interior minister says the suicide bomber remained outside the main gate for several minutes and had possibly planned to enter the building.
The CCTV footage shows the attacker standing across from the building, looking for a way to get in. Because of the tight security checks for everyone entering the court, he couldn't gain access and instead targeted a police vehicle.
A breakaway faction of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, the TTP, has claimed responsibility. It says the courts don't provide justice for poor people. Pakistan has seen an increase in attacks over the past few weeks, but this is the first to kill people here in Islamabad. The defense minister says they are sponsored by India and blames the Afghan Taliban for not doing enough to clamp down on TTP fighters. The attack comes a day after the TTP attacked a cadet college in South Waziristan, near the border with Afghanistan. Recent peace talks between the neighbors ended without progress.
The talks collapsed because Pakistan's demands were unreasonable and unacceptable. For instance, they asked Afghanistan to guarantee that no attacks would occur inside Pakistan, a condition beyond our responsibility. There were several such demands that we simply could not accept.
Pakistan, however, has warned it will retaliate swiftly to any attack within its borders by targeting TTP hideouts inside Afghanistan. Despite the efforts of the mediators like Qatar and Turkey to ease tensions, few here are optimistic of a positive outcome or a lasting ceasefire. Kamal Haider, Al Jazeera, Islamabad.
Sahar Khan is an independent security analyst, and she explains how this attack could escalate tensions between Pakistan and its neighbours.
I think the message is very clear. This is the first attack in Islamabad in 3 years, and Islamabad is a pretty guarded capital. It's close to the Pakistani establishment's headquarters. And so I think it really shows TTP's reach and its ability to conduct attacks deep within Pakistan. And so I think the message is clear that the TTP will continue to do these kinds of attacks, or at least Pakistan should expect these kind of attacks. And this is very much in response to, of course, what happened in Kabul a few weeks ago. And so I don't think that we're going to see any easing of violence anytime soon. South Asia, especially like India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, I mean, these are 3 countries that are just filled with proxy groups. And, oftentimes we see anytime there's an attack, you have one country accusing the other. Very rarely is evidence presented. It's all, of course, based on, past experiences, past grievances, and all 3 countries have been sort of, fighting each other via proxies for decades now. I think ultimately this is sort of, we're seeing proxy warfare play out. But I think the dangerous thing is that if more and more attacks keep happening like this, we might see, India, Pakistan especially go up the escalation ladder, which would be very dangerous, especially considering what happened in May this year, where both countries had a 4-day conflict.
Police in India are continuing to investigate a car explosion in Delhi, which killed at least 12 people on Monday. Several people were also injured when flames ripped through vehicles near the historic Red Fort. The explosion came hours after police said they'd arrested a gang and seized explosive materials. It's still unclear what caused the blast, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called it a conspiracy. Israel's parliament has advanced several controversial bills, including legislation for the death penalty. If passed, the law would make it compulsory to sentence Palestinians convicted of killing Jewish Israelis to death. Noor Alda reports.
Itamar Ben-Gvir, Israel's Minister of National Security, hands out sweets in celebration, moments after the Knesset, Israel's parliament, advances a death penalty bill for Palestinians. If it passes the second and third readings and becomes law, the legislation would apply exclusively to Palestinians convicted of killing Israelis in Israel's infamous military courts. And the death penalty would be compulsory. Ben-Gvir has lobbied for this law for years. In this video, he gloats about the mistreatment of Palestinian prisoners and says the next step is the death penalty. The bill advanced with a vote of 39-16. The major opposition parties could have stopped it. They chose not to.
The world is not recognizing the fact that Israel is shifting toward a real fascism and dictatorship.
Another 2 bills also passed the first reading on Sunday night. One dubbed the Al Jazeera law, allowing the government to shut down foreign media deemed hostile, even in the absence of a state of emergency. And the incitement law, another piece of legislation Ben-Gvir has championed. If passed, this would allow police to probe alleged incitement without the state attorney's approval. Under Ben-Gvir's watch, 96% of all incitement investigations have been against Palestinian Israeli citizens.
The laws are targeting Palestinians full stop, meaning targeting Palestinians wherever they are, and they are targeting the Palestinian narrative also.
More evidence, many say, supporting human rights organizations around the world that have demanded accountability for Israel's institutional racism and apartheid policies. With elections looming large, it seems to be open season on Palestinian land and rights. Israeli parties from across the political spectrum seem to be competing to see who can hurt Palestinians the most. Noor Alda, Al Jazeera, Ramallah, Palestine.
Since the Gaza ceasefire began in October, Israel has handed over hundreds of Palestinian bodies as part of an exchange deal with Hamas. But there are many unknowns, including which remains belong to people killed in Gaza or in Israeli detention. Many show signs of torture and mutilation, making it impossible for them to be identified. And as Tarek Abu Azoum reports from southern Gaza, the process of trying to find loved ones among the dead has been traumatizing.
She scans every face, every lifeless body, searching for the slightest sign of her son Fadi, a young man who lost a leg. For Rasmiya Khalil, the ceasefire has not brought peace. It's only begun another chapter of searching through death. Each quiet day that passes carries the same unbearable question. Is my son among the dead returned today?
We need them to run tests or at least give us a list of the names of the bodies. How am I supposed to identify my son? Yes, he's an amputee, but maybe both of his legs were cut off. They're bringing us body parts. How can I know if they belong to my son or not? There are so many questions.
Since the truce began, Rasmiya has come to this hospital 11 times, hoping that one of the bodies Israel has returned might finally bring her closure. But each time, she finds nothing.
I will keep searching and waiting for his body. Even if I find one body part, I will keep searching for it until the day I die. I won't rest until then.
Each return to her shelter feels heavier, as if she's carrying all the sorrow she couldn't leave behind at the morgue. What arrives here are bodies too burned, too decomposed, too destroyed to recognize. Rasmiya says every visit feels like dying a little more, living between denial and despair, between a mother's hope and a mother's nightmare. Inside this hospital, every returned body becomes a new chapter of agony for Gaza's families. Mothers are here searching for faces that no longer look like their sons. For them, war has not only taken lives, it has shattered the very process of saying goodbye. Israel refuses to share the names or details of those bodies it returns to Gaza, leaving families trapped in a psychological torment, forced to recognize their children by whatever remains of them. The war on Gaza may have slowed, but for Palestinian families here, the pain has not ended. For those families, the deepest fear is not only loss, it's that their loved ones might be buried somewhere, unrecognized, without a name, without a memory, and without being truly mourned. Tarek Abu Azoum, Al Jazeera, Khan Yunis, Palestine.
Presidential candidates in Chile have held their final campaign rallies as the country prepares to hold one of its most polarised elections. The two frontrunners are on opposite sides of the political spectrum. Our Latin America editor Lucia Newman was at the rally of a leading left contender, Jeanette Jara, in Santiago, and she explains how Jara is being challenged by far-right candidate Jose Antonio Cast.
We are in the municipality of Maipú. This is a working-class part of Santiago where Jeanette Jara is holding her final campaign rally. And you can see you can't fit a pin in here. It is absolutely packed with supporters. Jara is from the Communist Party, but the people here are from all walks of life and all different sectors, not necessarily from the Communist Party at all. And it's surprising to see how many young people and older people are here. It's really quite across the board, the support for this woman, who is also the first working class, truly working class presidential candidate that Chile has had, perhaps ever. She is running first in the polls.
She represents the people, ordinary people. She's a fighter, a sincere woman who isn't contaminated by the same old politicians.
She has very, very strong opposition, particularly from the extreme right. At this moment, Jose Antonio Cas, who is an extreme conservative, is holding his final rally in an auditorium, a very large one in another part of town. He is supported by the business sector, by banks, by the upper class particularly, and also by those who say that they are afraid of the left wing and particularly of a president who belongs to the Communist Party, even though Janet Jara is representing a centre-left coalition, the same one that is in the government right now.
We need radical change in this country. This country can't survive another government like the one we have. We need an austere state that's efficient.
These are two very different proposals for the future of Chile. There are two other conservative candidates in the race, but none are expected to obtain 50% plus one of the votes needed to avoid a runoff. And if the polls are right, Janet Jara will be one of the finalists. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Santiago, Chile.
The world's largest aircraft carrier, the U.S. Navy's Gerald R. Ford, has arrived in waters near Latin America. It's a major escalation of a military build-up in the region, which Venezuela has warned could trigger a full-scale conflict. The Trump administration has been ramping up military pressure on Venezuela and Colombia over alleged drug trafficking. It's been striking several vessels, accusing them of carrying narcotics. Colombia's president has ordered his security forces to suspend intelligence sharing with the U.S. That's until it stops attacking boats. The U.S. House of Representatives is set to vote on a spending bill on Wednesday to end the longest government shutdown in American history. On Monday, the Senate voted 60-40 to approve a bipartisan funding measure aimed at breaking the deadlock. The leader of the Democrats in the House says his party will not support it, but Republicans hold a slim majority, and that may be enough for the bill to pass. Also ahead on Al Jazeera.
I am Hashim Ahalbara in Imatra, a town that was thriving when Russian tourists were pouring into Finland. But all that came to an end when the borders were closed.
In-depth analysis of the day's headlines.
How serious is this for Europe itself, given that France is a major engine in the European economy?
Critical debate.
Is the US under attack from Latin American drugs cartels?
I think that's the silliest of all the accusations.
Informed opinions.
There is not a single Gazan that is advising them. You have Israelis, you have Palestinians from 48, you have diaspora Palestinians, but you don't actually have any Gazans there.
Inside Story on Al Jazeera.
One of the last remaining ancient forests in Southeast Asia is a lifeline to hundreds of lumberjacks and drivers. We follow their treacherous journey as they work through extreme conditions to gather and transport this dangerous but precious cargo, risking it all. Borneo on Al Jazeera.
Hearing the facts.
As the ceasefire has taken effect on the ground, for many Palestinians, it has been a historic moment filled with joy.
Al Jazeera's teams across the world bring you closer to the heart of the story.
You're watching Al Jazeera. A reminder of our top stories this hour. A breakaway faction of the Pakistan Taliban says it was behind a suicide bombing in Islamabad that has killed at least 12 people. Pakistan's government is blaming groups it says are backed by India and Afghanistan. Both countries have rejected those allegations. Israel's parliament has advanced several controversial bills, including legislation for the death penalty. If it's passed, the law would make it compulsory to sentence Palestinians convicted of killing Israelis to death. Protesters have clashed with security after forcing their way into the COP30 climate conference venue in Brazil. Members of indigenous tribes say their voices were not being heard at the summit. The UN says 2 security personnel were injured. The climate conference aims to keep commitments to limit global warming on track.
This is a way of defending the space where the summit is being held. For us, it's a moment of revolt, of indignation. It's a moment when we indigenous people feel the defeat of our territory in our skins. We don't eat money. We want our territory free, but the business of oil exploration, mineral exploration and logging continues.
Well, when it comes to the climate change crisis, Bangladesh is one of the most at-risk countries on Earth. 2/3 of its land lies less than 5 meters above sea level, making it highly vulnerable to rising seas, storm surges and floods. Scientists say that 17% of the country could disappear underwater by 2050, and that would wipe out nearly 1/3 of its farmland. For a nation where 85% of rural households rely on agriculture, that's a serious risk to food supplies and livelihoods. Rising sea levels could also force nearly 18 million people to leave their homes. Right, well, let's go live to Tanveer Chaudhry, who's in Pabna, that's in Bangladesh, where rising rivers are threatening homes. Tell us more, Tanveer, about where you are, and do people in Bangladesh have any hope in the world leaders that have been attending COP30 and whether they have their back?
We're in west central Bangladesh in Pabna. The boat is on a river called Gumani River. It's one of the 100 boats across Bangladesh. You're seeing the classroom right behind me. Kids are studying here. This is a great innovation. It is part of the climate adaptation program innovated by an architect who is behind this. Now, as far as your question, how do Bangladesh feel? Are they getting enough from the external source? It is a country that emits less than 0.5% of global emission, yet it pays a big amount of price for the impact of climate. I mean, just in a recent study, the government and the UN found out that annually rural people spend nearly $2 billion on just basically repairing their homes, mitigating for other issues regarding climate impact, and that cuts away into their food prices and other essential goods. Bangladesh itself put $3.6 billion annually for climate mitigation, and it is less than 12% what Bangladesh gets from external source to fight climate mitigation. So it gives you an idea how difficult it is. However, the people in the coastal areas and rural areas, people are aware of the impact of climate change. They know that the pattern of cyclone, the frequency of flood have increased, and they're trying to adapt as best as they can with the help of the NGOs and the government. And it has been a remarkable scenario. I mean, there are aquatic floating garden and century-old practice that still has come back in Bangladesh, growing vegetables and other fruits basically on barges with water hyacinths, and that's been very productive in southern part of the country, even where we are in these areas. And then you have like something like floating school. There is saltwater resistant farming, like rice grown in the coastal areas, but it is affecting particularly the women folks in the coastal belt, because it is really impacting their health because of high salinity content in the water. All this